August 19th Parks Commission meeting for the City of Dayton. Let's stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we've got a swearing in of the new commissioner, so I'll meet you up front here.
Okay.
So we'll do it like when I was sworn in.
Yeah. Can you take a photo?
Yes.
Thanks. All right, I'll do my best to break this up into chunks.
Okay.
All right, so repeat after me. I state your name, do solemnly swear or affirm
I, Kaia Chambers, do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office for the City of Dayton as a Parks Commissioner,
and that I will discharge faithfully the duties of the office for the City of Dayton as a Parks Commissioner
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright, the State of Minnesota,
in the counties of Hennepin and Wright, the State of Minnesota,
according to the law and the best of my judgment and ability.
according to the law and the best of my judgment and ability.
Welcome.
All right. Thanks.
Something else for the refrigerator.
Sweet. That's going to stand out among the kids' artwork.
All right, so approval of the agenda. We've got some amendments or addition. Do I just give that a letter and add it on there? It's G. We'll call it G. It'll be part of the regular meeting. The selection of duties, where we'll elect a chair and vice chair. Any other changes to the agenda? All right, I would entertain an approval or a motion to approve that agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Agenda is approved. Consent agenda, routine previously discussed items will be enacted with one motion. Minutes can be approved by those absent. All we have is the approval of the commission minutes. I briefly looked over them and nothing jumped out at me.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Open forum, limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. State your name and address. No action will be taken, and items will be referred back to staff and/or council. We have one member, but I don't think you're here for public forum, are you, sir?
No.
Nope. All right. Anyone online?
I have 2 online. If anyone would like to speak, raise your hand, please. I don't see anything, so we should be good.
All right. With that, I will close public forum. Council update. Councilman Trost.
Yeah, thank you. So I've got a few updates. There was a conversation on a public event permit that was not approved at the last meeting. I think we'll be seeing that again. Paths around the city, so I don't know if Travis mentioned it, but we had a plan to run a path from Collective Overlook Park over to
142nd.
Thank you, 142nd,
Yeah.
you knew. But the county's going to come in and they're going to redo that road and in turn basically destroy any work that we would do and have to redo it again. And so the council moved forward with holding that until they come in to do it. The work's going to be done in multiple stages over multiple years. I don't remember exactly what year that one was. I want to say it was 28.
2028.
Yep. So that's as part of what the county does now is they want to make roads more accessible, walkable, bikeable. They're planning on putting a path in there anyways.
Sure.
So it will actually save us the paths money to have to do that, which means the approximate $1 million that was budgeted for that, we won't have to pay for. So that's helpful to the city in that front. The city will have to pay for other things when that road gets done, but not the paths. So there's basically $1 million more in the paths budget than you all had accounted for. So in a future meeting, it might be worthwhile to pull out that wonderful path map that we've looked at a bajillion times. I know Marty's shaking his head, but and try to figure out, we have time now to make decisions for next year to hopefully get things done in the spring of next year, so that way they can get used next summer if we work on that the next couple of meetings. So it might be worthwhile it's your choice for the committee to reevaluate that, given that those funds are now kind of back in your pool. And then We've been having budget meetings, so there was a budget meeting before the last city council meeting. So as not to editorialize it, I would encourage you to watch it. It's about an hour and a half. About an hour of it, I would say, is more detailed budget. There seems to be two different approaches to the budget this year, and you'll see them. One thing that I proposed to be in the budget was that we double the pay for committees. The pay hasn't been touched for you all in a long time. And $25 a meeting isn't a whole heck of a lot. Moving to $50 a meeting doesn't cost the city a whole heck of a lot. So that's on the table this year as well. The last piece I have is not a council update, but I've been out knocking on doors, and I was down in the Sundance Green, Sundance Woods area recently. I got a lot of questions if they could get a porta potty at their park, which maybe is a larger conversation around porta potties at parks in general. The gentleman said, I take my grandkids there. He was honest, and I'm old, and I have to use the bathroom a lot. And so then I get there, and I turn on, well, I basically walk back because I have to use the bathroom. So that was him being honest. Also, I thought younger kids, you get your kids there, and then all of a sudden, one goes to the bathroom, you got to turn around by the time you get there. So I don't know if we have a policies, a standard, probably is the right word, Marty, around when we do use them and put them in parks, when we don't. But it might be worth consideration for the committee as to if we want one or not. So just want to give you the feedback that I got from the citizens. That's all I have for you. Any questions for me?
No, I mean, I guess other than, I'm a little curious on the porta potty thing, if there's a standard, because I know some parks do have them. I think Wildwood has one.
The rule of thumb
Seasonally.
is if it was, we put them in like at the sports fields, McNeil, Central, those were generally where it started, and there's one at the old shop when that was used. I think it's there now. But that was generally the ruling where they were going to be, where the most people were going to be at a short period of time. So that was the only rule of thumb that we had. So we can reconsider that if we want to put them in at neighborhood parks or whatever. That's.
Do you know off the top of your head what's the approximate cost, just for curiosity?
I think currently we are paying around about, rounding out, it's about $15,000 a year for porta potties.
For all of them right now?
Yeah, all of them currently. So I don't know what that breaks down to, but I can find
We
that
have a
out.
total of about 10, or how many think we have?
Oh. I didn't know I was going into the porta potty.
Sure.
I don't know, but I can find out. It's probably around about 10, something in that region.
Okay.
And they vary from the
1,500-ish.
disabled size and the regular
Sure.
size. So
For a year. Yeah,
1,500 for a year seems pretty reasonable. One question I had, just as we start thinking about 25, let's say it's $1 million or whatever it is that final number ends up being for paths. How far does $1 million go in paths?
So $1 million is how much we estimated the path would be to go from Cloquet Overlook Park to 142nd. I always forget the name of that road. I want to say it's North Diamond Lake, but
142nd is
just opposite North Diamond, the intersection with
North
North
Diamond hits
Diamond and
Dayton, and then it's 142nd on the other side.
that's right there. Okay.
Yeah, so from
So
Cloquet-
what is that? 2 miles?
it would, yes, close to 2 miles. I think it's 1.75 or something off the top of my head. But that also, in that cost, there's a lot of, it depends on how much grading, and there's a big ravine crossing in there as well, so there's material costs. So it's very difficult to give you an accurate cost per
Yeah.
mile or whatever.
No, I'm just always fascinated because when you're out there and you're thinking about, geez, it'd be great if we had a path here, and you start thinking about, so is it 500,000 a mile, is it $1 million a mile, what it is?
Yeah.
And, okay, that gives me a good ballpark of,
Yeah.
because I hear from a lot of people like, well, why don't we have a path that goes from
Yeah.
169 to 101? And I'm like, okay.
That's what I
I
love
don't
about
think
it.
you realize how much that costs.
Yeah, so I mean, it also depends on availability of right of way as well. So we might have to purchase right of way in there, so that will balance up the cost quite considerably.
It's about 2,800 feet, so it's about 2/3, half a mile, that stretch.
Is that all it is? I thought it was.
Divide
only
that by
half
$1 million, it'll give us a rough estimate.
I thought it was longer than that.
That's per the GIS in the county.
I walked it.
Which doesn't sound
It's
too
2.5 miles.
Uphill, snowing both ways.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Paths are important, so whatever we have.
They're also
to do,
extremely expensive. That's what's so wild when you think about, like, just trying to equate that path being $1 million to a porta potty being $1,500. It's just trying to give perspective of what we're looking at for budgetary purposes.
It's about $350 a foot,
Makes sense.
based on that stretch of length.
Right.
But
Yeah.
as Marty said, it could vary.
Yeah.
If they're putting in a road, it makes sense, obviously, to add paths to it, rather than just, let's throw a path up.
Yeah.
But we do need more in the county.
And is the one that's on Dayton River Road right now, does that just stop at the Champlin-Dayton border? Is that where it stops?
Yep.
Essentially?
Yeah, that's where it stops it.
Okay.
And the county's looking at possibly redoing
Yeah.
that intersection as well and making that a safer crossing up at Balsam. But that hasn't been defined. That's part of their Safe Routes to School program that the county is doing, the schools are doing. So
That'd be great.
there might be more there
Impressive,
coming
but-
too, yeah.
That's kind of where it all started when we were doing this study for the school here. The Safe Routes to School stuff was brought up, and they wanted to figure out where other crossings would be. And we were talking about the Balsam Lane thing there, so I brought that up to them, and then the whole thing started to come together from there. So that is a big project for them, Safe Routes to School. They're trying to get away from having as many buses and cars causing congestion on streets, so they want to have kids going on bikes and skateboards and whatever to get to school as much as they can.
Like the path you guys did on Pineview has been unbelievable for our neighborhood. I mean, it's changed so many things. A lot less kids are taking the bus or are walking, or because it's so accessible to get across with the crosswalk, and then the path that goes right into South Diamond. It's awesome. So I think there's definitely been a lot of benefit there. But the hard part is like, you know, do you need one on South Diamond? Do you need one on North? Like, there's just, everybody's going to want paths. So
Yeah.
A few meetings ago, there was, Hennepin County came in and they were, Three Rivers came in, and Marty, you probably forwarded, if you haven't already, the Parks Commission, but they laid out what their plan is for their pathing through the city long-term for connectivity into Three Rivers Park District. So that would have been when Travis was covering for me before that, so I didn't go back that far. But if you haven't seen it, Marty can send it out, and that'll give you an idea of how they plan on eventually connecting everything up. We had them out because they were buying a lot of land next to the river. We're trying to understand what their ultimate goal is. So it was a very informational session when she came out to talk. So you can watch it as well, but Marty can send out the slides.
yeah, any way we can get it to connect to their parks, they usually will pay the bill, right?
Part of.
Part of it,
partial.
yes.
Like, so like Pineview was that 50-50 or
that was all city.
all city?
Yeah. But we had to get some parkland to use, so we ended up paying, where we put a roundabout in, we got into the park area a little bit, so we had to pay by giving them some land, so that was a property on the river road there that they took. But
So the
if
city-
it's on their land, they're going to do it. If it's on our land, then we'll pay for it.
Unless they have a future want of a path there, in
If
which
it's
case
an
we
ident-
do it and they reimburse us for
If
it.
it's an identified trail, there's a reimbursement sometimes,
Correct.
but this one wasn't, I don't believe.
Got it.
So we work closely with those guys to understand where their trails are, what they're buying and stuff, and if there's anything that the city can help, or land that they're buying that the city can put something on as well. So we try to incorporate their plans with us. So I think we meet quarterly with them just to go over where they're at.
We may be able to speed up their plans if we know where their routes are and we decide as a city that's where we're going to put them. We might be able to speed them up, and then they'll just take them over and we pay for it and we get the money back. So
Right.
there might be an option for us to help move that along a little quicker if we're strategic with the options we choose on how to spend that money.
That's how it worked with Cloquet, that trail going into Stevens there. That was identified as the West Mississippi River Trail, and that was why we put it in, but they paid us back for it.
Sure. Awesome. Any other questions? Great. With that, we can move to the regular meeting. So we've done the swearing in, but we've got the voting for a new chair and vice chair. I forget exactly how this process worked last time. If people just, I think, said they were interested and then there was a vote. maybe?
And then I think you just voted on it.
Is anybody interested specifically in being chair and or vice chair?
I'm interested in being chair.
All right. Anyone else?
I'm interested in being vice.
All right. That sounds great. I think we can take that to a vote if necessary, but it'd be...
Yeah, I think formally you got it.
Yeah, so all in favor of Dave Peichel for chair, say aye.
You need a motion in a second.
Oh, sure, okay, so someone else should motion that since I'm
Yes.
I'll
chair.
second.
All right. Well, can I motion that since I'm kind of acting?
Just because you're the chair, you can motion
Okay.
things even for the chair.
All right, so I'll motion Dave Peichel for chair of Dayton Parks Commission.
I'll second.
And all in favor? Aye.
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 Great, motion passes. And then I'll motion Brad Cole as vice chair for the Dayton Parks Commission.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So we've got a new chair and vice chair. Great. Should I keep running the meeting or should I pass it
Sure.
to Dave?
You got this.
All right.
Live
All
it
right,
up one last time.
I'll keep running it. So,
You're running it smoothly.
sure. Get out here quick.
He's gone power crazy now.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Item C, Elsie Stevens Park Master Plan update.
All right. So, what am I going to do? So, this isn't you. You're the next one.
Okay.
As you were. So the city, some time ago, I think there's a lot of history in the packet I gave you, designed this master plan with the help of a committee, various other entities had input onto this. We've completed some stages of this, but we're getting to the area where we haven't had any real direction with the phasing. So there's some major things in here, and the council has asked, what do we want to include in here? What should this look like? Specifically, the structure that's going in there. What's that? The use of that? What's that look like? What are our intentions for it? Is it going to be a venue for weddings, or is it a conference centre, or is it a community centre? What does that look like? Because we need to start budgeting more accurately for that particular part of the park and for the park in general. Because we put in a placeholder number in there several years ago. I think it's $5 million, but we don't know what $5 million it looks like, and if that is a realistic number for in that particular location, depending on what that building's going to look like and the usage for that. So what I'm looking for initially from you guys is some ideas of what we want to see in there. We did do the park walk around last year, and I've included things on that you guys wanted to put in there and see go in there. And then the idea is to take this and put it out for an RFP to other designers, contractors, who will come in with their ideas for how this park, how we can update the existing master plan to incorporate these ideas.
Yes, if I can just add two pieces for background, I think it'd be helpful. One
Sure.
is, this came out of the budgeting, as Marty had said, and you're not, I want to be maybe clear, you're not tied to what was said in the past. If you all decide, we don't like any of this, we think it should be X, Y, and Z, like you could blank slate it and start over if you wanted to. But you have a good starting point. The second thing to add is around the event center conversation. I don't know if everyone knows this, I know City Council does, but we have an event center currently in the city. We have Magnus that is, will probably be applying for an event center permit. We've got Fisher Farms that has talked about building an event center. And we have a Thicket Hills winery in town whose ultimate goal is to have the premier wedding venue in the state here in Dayton. So I just bring that up because that's 4 event centers that are already planned in the city of Dayton, and we're talking about the city having a 5th one. So I think it's good background for you to know as you're having the discussion.
What was the first one before Magnus? You said there's
The
one?
Dean's.
Oh,
Dean's
okay,
Pumpkin.
Dean's,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep. And they do everything from birthday parties.
Because there's
to
also
kids'
Sundance and Daytona, but those are, I guess, separate because they're kind of more specific entities.
Well, yeah, those are also technically event centers, although I don't think they've received event center permits from the city.
Sorry,
No.
Sundance and Daytona.
So
There's
we have
a
even more
way-
of them. We're up to I lost count now.
Sure.
So yeah, we have a good number of places to host an event, either currently in the city and or coming in the city as well.
Yeah.
Not saying that we can't have one as well, but I think it's good for you all to have a background.
So are we scrubbing our conversation from February 6th then? Where we talked about what we wanted down there for an amphitheater and what other extras we'd like to see with volleyball, or we just,
No, that's all in play here, you know.
okay?
So whatever I'm going to have Paul Kangas come in and do an update here pretty soon as well as to where we're at with stuff. Maybe at the next meeting, he's going to do an update to the council on the 23rd or what, next council meeting anyway.
Oh, okay.
So whatever we haven't got that bid documentation together, so we haven't got cost, but the things that we selected to go in there, I think is beach the volleyball, sand volleyball court, and the picnics, shelter, band shelter, signage, the bridge, those other things, they're all it's still in that part of the documentation. So that we're going to go ahead with those, unless you guys decide, no, that's not what I want to do.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Yeah, those would all, I think I consider those all the current stage, as in
Yeah.
we're currently working on those.
Right.
I think, Marty, what you're looking for is what's next.
Yeah, what's next?
So when you talked about the shelter, you were thinking more of the venue structure, not the band shell.
No, not the band shell.
Gotcha.
I'm talking
Okay.
about the conference centre or whatever that looks like, whatever that wants to be. And I know that we're talking about having some restaurant things in there and a bar and stuff like that. So, I mean, all of those things are on the table, and we can get those plugged into the master plan if that's what we want to do. I want to take your information from here, then talk with the council about it, and then put an RFP document together that includes all of our wish list, and then come back and see what they come back with as some designs and proposals.
Okay, so just so I'm straight, amphitheater's included in that, the seating area is included in that, the picnic area is included in that. What about the concrete cornhole stuff that we had spoke about?
The concrete,
Concrete cornhole,
yeah,
that's all included in that as well?
no, that's not included in it at this stage.
Okay. Any kind of money numbers that we can play with?
Well, that's what I'm asking, that we can get this so I can get some accurate engineering estimates at least, and then,
Because we had pretty specific numbers for the amphitheater.
so the amphitheatre is the band shell type
Yep.
thing, yeah. Yeah.
But unless we're looking to change that, you're not looking for necessarily updates on that as much as you are the future looking things.
I'm looking at the
Next
bigger
phase.
picture thing.
Gotcha.
So
And that
what's
five,
in the master plan, I'm just expanding that to what we want to see from here, or if we want to just leave it the same, or whatever you guys want to do.
Sure.
But I think the conference centre, whatever that's
Sure.
going to look like, I think that was one of the bigger things that the council was wanting to tie down a bit, so we can. That's
And
going to be a
that's-
big cost, and we want to get an accurate number for budgeting
Yeah.
purposes.
That and I think the two biggest items that are maybe in the plan, but one's in the budget, I don't know if the other one is. One is the event center / whatever that building's gonna be. And then the second is a park area.
Yeah.
oh, like a playground.
Top
kind of-
lot?
Yeah, if
Okay.
you, not top lot, no,
No.
I think what's planned in here is like a premier park.
We have talked about a premium.
Multi-stage.
That's what's in your photos in here, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the council's feeling for an event center, knowing that we have, you listed 5 other ones? Is it worth our money?
It's a conversation we wanted input from the Parks Commission on. So I know, one of the things we talked about was right now it's budgeted for 28, was moving that out even further. Because A, we don't know what it is, we have to plan for it, we don't know what it's gonna be used for, if it's even gonna be there. So as in like, if it's something we're gonna end up building, if we think it's necessary to have, so.
Do we know how Champlin's amphitheater and their event center that they just put in has been doing?
Very well. At least from when I go there. I mean, we normally go on Thursday nights, and there's anywhere from 1,000 to
Yes.
3,000 people there on Thursday
Dang,
nights. It's
okay.
insane. When the weather's good, which it's been
Yeah.
good almost every Thursday night. I've never seen anything like it, to be honest
Wow.
with you. The
Okay.
amount of people that come from everywhere else, like the people coming in off boats, like the 1,000 to 3,000 people are actually up on shore, but there's another few
however many
hundred
slips
floating
there
by
are.
back and forth. There's slips everywhere. People are tying off. It's a really cool experience. That's what we had talked about. Could we do something like that here?
Yeah, that
And the
makes
biggest
sense.
issue we had right out of the gate is how shallow it is in that part of the river. Down at Elsie Stevens, it's so shallow. I mean, this year it's not as shallow as normal, but there's times we talked about you could walk across.
Yeah.
So, kind of put the kibosh on.
Champlin's got us there because between the dam and the bridge is almost like a lake. Most of the time, it's a pretty standard height. It goes up and down. Don't get me wrong, but they always have enough water to get boats up and down there. If you get this far north, it's much harder to do that.
Right.
Not impossible. There was a gentleman in a boat at the last concert we had there, so
Interesting.
yeah, just dropped his anchor.
Yeah, but that's good to know that, it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were struggling, then it would seem silly to
But it's
do
the
one
same,
for.
same conversation
but-
we've had with Andrews Park in Champlain, in the splash pad. It's really good and it's really fun, and but there's enough people from Dayton that already go there. Like,
Yeah.
is it worth? Does it dilute it? Same thing with Champlin. Like, there's a lot of people from Dayton and Anoka and other places that are going to support Champlin right now. But like, do we just dilute the product too much if we all try to do, the same thing? Like, don't get me wrong. I think it's great. I wish we would have one, but it's like, when you look at what the expenses are, it's kind of like, I don't think the return's there. Whereas in Champlin, they're getting the return.
Yeah. I feel like you can never have too many splash pads, but it just depends on like what level too. Because there's one in Maple Grove at the park near the library that's literally just the water. It's not
Yeah.
even other things, and there's so many kids that
Yeah.
just
It's
play
good,
in this,
yeah.
the squirting
Well,
water.
I'd love to
so-
know what the cost on the one is by Cullen's at Mississippi
Yeah,
Crossing.
yeah,
They
it's
have
like
one there
3 or
too.
4.
We've actually triggered it a couple times accidentally. Just trying to get ice cream over here, and now I got water on me. But I think there's definitely like different grades of them because we've discussed the splash pad, we discussed mini golf. I mean, you can see the list. Like we went through a lot of them. It's just trying
Yeah.
to narrow down what we actually think people will come to.
The other question too, thinking about like event centers, is are any of those event centers that were listed with an overlook on the Mississippi? Because that's another like pro, I would say, to having an event center. there.
Magnus has the overlook of
Yeah, they have the lake.
Diamond, but
Yeah, no, it's
green sometimes of the year.
the Champlin Event Center does weddings, right? The Mississippi Crossing.
You can
one?
rent the Champlin events out for anything. Our HOA rents it out for our annual meeting, so like you can rent it out.
So
for
they're probably
anything.
weddings on, but we don't, in Dayton, I don't think we have anything that.
Well, we currently have weddings at Elsie Stevens, right?
Right,
Yeah,
outdoor,
That's,
yeah.
So there's an appetite.
Yeah, they'll have the actual wedding there and stuff, but then
Just
they'll
the
go somewhere
reception.
else for the reception and that kind
Sure.
of stuff.
Yeah, so it could be a one-stop,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if there was a covered space. I mean, I think it'd be awesome to have, but yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be able to stomach the cost at this time. And I mean, anything that involves staffing gives me pause too, because the city's not generally looking to add more staff, I don't think. But I want to be able to plan for the future too. So hard to say no to things, and I don't know.
Adding one later on, if there was a demand, though,
Yeah.
wouldn't
As long as you
be
don't make
impossible, right? So,
Anything for money.
I mean, I know there's a lot of appetite, well, that's in the current anyway, to improve the current band facility, to have a little better overhead.
Marty, if we did do something like a driving range or mini golf or something like that, would that be something that the city would look to staff themselves, or basically just lease it out? For example, like Bunker Hills has a really nice wedding area and restaurant and all that in Coon Rapids, and they just lease out the space. Would that be something,
I think that would be something we would consider, we'd have to look at, see how that works and what the implications of doing it that way and liabilities and all that kind of stuff. But I wouldn't be averse to that idea.
Just thinking of like the space we have there, if we made it a fun driving range on the Mississippi with some mini golf or putting version, to it, and then also a bar and restaurant as well. Like, what if it just becomes this cool space, and then it becomes a revenue source too? Not just, obviously we're gonna have lots of startup costs, but then there's some revenue to help.
Yeah.
Marty, do you remember the cost of that green we put in?
I want to say it was 67,000 at the end of the day.
Was it a
Where
little
at?
bit more?
Did he?
I thought it was 67.
Where is that?
Over at Hayden, it's a small
Yeah,
putting
okay.
green with an artificial surface. I thought it was 67. I would have to
That sounds
look.
about
If you
right.
need the exact
No,
number,
I was just
I can
curious,
get it.
just for number wise. I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
favor of a driving range, but then you
Yeah.
gotta put up nets and
Well,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
that stuff.
I'm not a golfer, but what's the footprint on a driving range? I mean, I've been to some that are huge, but I know you
Yeah.
can probably abbreviate it with nets too.
I would say, basically the way we're looking right now, if you started on the flat and went back up the hill, so you're with the rivers to the left, you go back up the hill, no one's going to probably be able to get to the end of that. I mean, basically, no one can hit it more than 340 yards. So think about 340 yards as kind of your max
And you
of
can
where to
bring
go. But you
special
could
balls.
use limited flight balls.
Yeah.
You could use a net. There was a place back in the day, I don't know if you remember this, Northern Palms. So, do you remember it, Matt?
The Rogers that closed down.
Yeah. So when I
yes,
was in
I know
high
that
school,
place,
this
yeah.
place, we used to have, I graduated in Anoka in 02, so this was maybe like 99, 2000.
Okay.
There was the Brooklyn Park Dome, and there was nothing else up here. And golf was just booming with Tiger and everything. So these people put in Northern Palms,
Yeah.
which it's right by Rogers High School and Middle School. So when you're on, is that North Diamond Lake?
Yeah.
When you're on North Diamond Lake, the road, we used to hit into the road. And the nets would try to catch the ball before, but we had a guy that ended up playing on tour that would hit repeatedly over the net and hit cars over and over again as they were driving by like towards the middle school there. It was very intense. But I would say in general, if you have a space of 200 yards to do limited flight, you'd be fine. If if you have a further space, you probably need about 350. But there's a lot of ways to make a lot of money on it. I mean, there's nothing in this area that's like that type of vibe, because I've got a whole vision of what it would look like. Because this is what we all do for a living. And so like I have a guy that does the maintenance-free turf. I got guys that do all the different stuff. So it's something we could look at I just think it's cool. I always look at like how do we bring in revenue for the city? And I know that's one of the things like Hiawatha Golf Course, Minneapolis has been trying to close it for forever, but they won't because it's like the only park that brings in money.
Right.
Like they bring in consistent revenue every year. So if we had something that brought in revenue and then brought people to Elsie Stevens.
I like the idea of a driving range a lot more than just like a putting thing. I walk in the Hayden Park playground area almost daily, and I always see people on the playground, always see people on the pickleball courts. I rarely see people putting around in that little area.
And the putting is free there, right?
Yeah.
So we could make something that was more like a competitive
Yeah,
to go
true.
along with. Well, so hey, you're waiting for a stall right now. Go play a 9-hole putting course for $5 or something like that to kind of kill time.
Yeah,
Go
yeah.
grab a beer or a burger or something.
Yeah, if it's a golfing destination, it makes more sense. That was an homage to the
Yeah.
the
So
golf
to the-
course.
I don't golf. I don't know how
Pickleball.
much space you need, but from the pool up the hill is about 550 feet, and then from the edge of where the path is now to the river edge is 100 feet wide. So if you're trying to shoot up that hill, I don't know how wide you need. I don't
That's
know how.
pretty tight. You said
Because you probably can't, because you can't go up to the river when you build either. You're
No.
going to have to be a ways in from the river because of that.
Yeah.
And that plains, that flood ever? I know parts of the park flood, but that part doesn't normally flood,
That
does
part, no.
I think it's high enough, isn't it?
Huh?
It's high enough there.
Yeah, it's high enough up there. It was closer down to where the band stuff is, so
Yeah,
it got
sure.
flooded around that trail area there.
it? I just want to give you some distance for it.
That's
Yeah.
well, if it's 500
Appreciate
feet for 160, I mean that's not enough distance.
And 100 feet wide, so yeah.
And then we'd have to, there's trails all the way around there as well, so we'd have to protect the trails as well.
How many acres is that kind of open area, Matt? Is it
One
Like-
second, I'll say.
is it like 8?
Yeah, change it from feet to acres. One second. It's like 2 acres without the path.
Oh, it's
currently.
only 2.
I mean, I'm giving some like wiggle room around the outside, but yeah, it's about 2 acres from where the band's just like over the pool, up the hill a little bit, and then down towards the road in a diamond, in a triangle. Is about 2 acres.
Even if you had it in a cone shape, it wouldn't work.
You make it a wedge range. But like Edinburgh has on the side of theirs, they've got like a 100-yard wedge range, and then they've got like a short game area, all that. But
Inside the event center, digital golf,
Yeah, I'm gonna say the simulators seem to be doing pretty good at
Simulators in
in the
Sundays.
wintertime, yeah.
Because that was my next question is there anything creative you can do with these spaces in the winter? I mean, not that we're capitalizing on the field necessarily in the winter, but
Right.
it'd be, if we're putting the money in, I'm anticipating people are gonna ask,
yeah.
is it gonna sit still and?
And I'll be honest with you right now, like from a golf perspective, one of the things that's super oversaturated is the sim space.
Sure.
Almost everyone has one now.
'Cause you
Like
can put 'em in
every
your
golf
garage.
course is putting them in, and then people are putting them in their houses. But
Yeah, the neighborhoods
it's
and
kind of
sheds.
feels like it's maybe like a year away from kind of what's happened in the craft beer world, where there's just too many breweries now, and you have like one of the
bubbles
originals.
gonna pop.
Dangerous Man closed down. They moved out west, and they closed their northeast location, and they were like one of the original best tap rooms. So just stuff like that. So I was just thinking there's a way we could just
It
having
would be
something
different
kind of
if it was
unique.
real,
It would
yeah.
be, yeah, but never scratch
May not
it.
have the
So
space.
what about
Yeah.
some wintertime stuff? Sledding hill,
I love-
ice skating
yeah.
rink.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Water's right there in the river. Marty can bore a hole.
Can we flood it, Marty? I mean, is it that big of a?
So there is a sledding hill just
Yeah.
across Dayton Road
Yeah.
from where that park is, and there's
At
a tunnel
River
underneath
Hills?
Dayton Road.
Yeah.
Yep, in River Hills Park.
Yeah.
So
Right,
you
so
you could use that as a sledding hill.
Yeah.
Because it's already there, sledding hill, unless you want a second sledding hill on the other side of the road.
Is there space for like maintaining a cross-country skiing?
Well, we did talk about this
Trail?
last year in that open field area. We didn't have enough snow last year to make it
Yeah.
happen. So, but that is a planned area in that open area that you see up there. I didn't want to mouse it.
Snowshoeing as well was talked about.
Yeah. So that just in there.
Do we have any other rinks in the area?
Marty, do you want to talk about your frustration with rinks?
Well, I mean,
We
when we have a
people
winter
already
like that,
laid on
there's a ton of frustration.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is with rinks, there's a lot of maintenance in there, there's a lot of flooding, and if you don't get the cold temperatures, you're not going to get anything no matter how hard you try. If we put up the temporary stuff, then that's a lot of effort to put that in. Then it kills the grass after that, and then you've got to reseed that stuff. And then, you end up maybe, like last year, I think we had the rinks open for 10 days, something
I
like
think
that.
2 years ago, when we had all that, the year we had all that snow and it was cold, I think we had the rinks open for just a handful of days.
Yeah. So it's, and every time it snows, then you got to clean them up and stuff. So I'm not opposed to them, but they're just a lot of work. And
What about something more formal, like Maple Grove has with their little pathway that zigzags around? They have chillers underneath, so you get a
Yeah.
longer use out of it.
Yeah.
Warming house, gonna need restrooms down there anyways.
I'm fine with that idea. I like the idea of a refrigerated pathway, but that's a huge expense. So,
$60,000 for a putting green, that doesn't get used, sorry.
but yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact cost of that one in Maple Grove, but I know it was very, very expensive.
Right.
Once
that
you get
just-
into the refrigeration stuff, and I don't know what the maintenance is on that, but I think that's a really cool idea. Is this the right place for it? I don't know, but I mean, we could do some research on it.
This is my marketing hat that I'm putting on. My day job is marketing, but I was just, is there anything like kind of in Dayton's whole city plan of like what we want to be known for? Is it just outdoor fun destination, or is there anything more
Rural
specific
feel.
than that? Rural feel?
It's being built up.
Live the difference.
World's going away.
Play outside is one of the things
Yeah.
that we say.
All year round.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think there are things that Dayton should be known for. The Mississippi River is a big asset. I mean, the Park District here is another big asset for us. So those two things are huge for us. I mean, this park is going to be a premier park in here. We want it to be
Yeah.
a destination park where people are going to come to. So,
What about adding in some of the history of Dayton into this building?
yeah.
Somebody can go and learn about all these names from
I-
the parks that are around.
I like that idea a lot. We should have a history society or something here to, promote that history that's there. I mean, on this site, there's a lot of history
Yeah.
within the Stevens family that was there. So I
sure.
think that there's some opportunity to do something like that there.
Is-
I mean, that old horse barn, I was looking at doing, would like to do something like that in there. If I can ever get somebody to believe in me.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I have
Good
been
luck
asked a
with that,
few
yeah.
times too at the events I've done, like, oh, what is this history of this park? And
Right.
so people do have interest in that.
Sure.
And I think we got to tap some of these people, now while we still can. I mean, there's a guy down in the old village, Rick Durant, has got a lot of stories about that, and I'd like to get some of that history out
Yeah.
of him and do something with some of it, about how they used to play, go play on the river, when it was frozen over down there and stuff,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
The church cookbook has some crazy stories too.
Yeah.
I'm reminded we talked about a veterans themed memorial or a veterans park as probably part of Elsie Stevens. Is that captured somewhere, or is that something that we need to formally put into a phase?
It's not captured anywhere
Okay.
currently.
I mean, I don't think that's going to break the bank necessarily, but I don't want to lose sight of that. I think it was a good idea that.
Yeah, I think it was a good idea. I think it is something that probably is worth putting in a phase. If this is the park we want to do it at, I know there's talks about maybe doing it at Leathers Park too. If that's a good use for it, I don't know. So it's kind of a quiet area. So either or, I have zero preference one or the other. I would encourage y'all to look at this as do we want a building, and if so, what do we want to use it for? Do we still want a premier park? If so, what kind of things do we want to see in it? And then what maybe, because those two things are going to take up a lot of space if you decide you want to do both of those. And then maybe what other ancillary things would you like to see to support those two larger projects? That would be my, maybe to help steer the conversation a little bit.
My
Might be
only
helpful to talk about.
concern, sorry there, but my only concern with going back to the list is the items we already walked through and delaying that stuff. And part of it is city fault, part of it is the vendor that we had lined up. He sent us that letter in May after we walked through everything saying he didn't have time. So now again, this is getting pushed out at another year. Heritage Days is right around the corner. You know, we really want to use that park. Is there any way to splice these additions off of the amphitheater, the seating area, the picnic area? Make that stuff we're talking about tonight a phase 4?
Those are current phase.
Yeah.
So as in like, we're working on them right now, but they won't get done this year.
Understand that, but
Yeah.
if we're going back and forth again of, well, we like these ideas, let's go to the council, aren't we going to get hung up again on, well, some of the council members want this, not that, and
I think-
then we go for bid?
I think
My understanding, to speak on maybe behalf of the council, and
Yeah.
I'm going to paraphrase, and it probably won't get what everyone thinks, but probably majority, is that the amphitheater, we're waiting to get move the step forward to go and get everything lined up so we can go out to bids, meaning the council was okay with it, but first we have to get all of the detailed items that we need to go out to bid for. Then it'll come back to us, and then we'll say, maybe we don't want $70,000 bricks, whatever they were.
Yeah.
So we want something else instead. So then whoever does it will kind of edit that, and then we'll actually send it out to bids. Then when the bids come back, we'll have actual dollars versus hypothetical dollars, what it's going to cost us are legitimate bids, and then we'll know. I'm going to speak maybe out of turn. I don't think those things are on the chopping block. I don't think that's what Marty's trying to get to tonight.
Yeah.
I think he wants us to look past those last things we talked about to what's next.
Okay.
Because on the budget plan, we're looking at what's in 2028, and we're saying we have $5 million slotted for a building. We don't even know if we want the building, if what we're going to use it for, if it's going to cost $5 million or $10 million or $2 million or those kind of things. And maybe you say the building's not what we want next. The premier park, that we'd rather see before we see a big event center there. So those I think are more the kind of things I would encourage you to focus on tonight, because I think that will help empower Marty to better represent you in front of the council. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah.
Cool.
And then answer one of mine, the 5 million is specific to the next phase or the remainder of the project maybe?
It was just a random number. We
Yeah.
put in a
Sure.
random date, and I
Okay.
think that was more designated for the event center.
And
Yeah.
so it's not inclusive of current phase?
No,
necessarily?
that's all
Okay.
separate. The current
Okay.
face off's all separate.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
I would think prioritizing the premier park would make much more sense than the event center than for the next focus.
I'd agree.
Agreed. Yeah.
With a restroom.
Yeah.
Well, I
river
mean,
there.
for all the
Is
things that are
there-
there, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're going to put a sprinkler system in, so there's going to be water.
there's water there already. So
But there's not sewer, is there?
there's no sewer there. Again, there's a river.
Don't tell the DNR you said that. Is there remind me if there's anything for parking in the current phase? Additional?
Yeah, we're doing an alternate in there for parking, being as we were looking at good blacktop costs, so we wanted to see what it would cost us to do it. So it's going to be incorporated in there, but it's going to be an alternate. So
Sure.
if we go for it or if we don't.
Well, I love having more green space than hardtop for sure, but at the same time, if it means an event might not be as successful because it rained the night before, or,
Yeah.
does it take a lot of staffing on your part to mark it out for parking?
Well, to get an event down there, we probably have invested a day for 4 members of my crew
Yeah.
to get that all marked out and
Sure.
everything, put
Yeah, I
it
had
in
a-
place and stuff
I
like
had a
that.
comment when I was working the election, someone said, why don't they just put in permanent poles and string up strings, and then you don't have a bunch of public works guys out there all day, and so I'll ask
And they
them.
got a mow around them.
Yeah, that was my thought. Then if you have permanent poles, that's obviously other issues. But it was a point that had me curious as to what the cost is to set up for the temporary parking or
Yeah.
whatever else goes into it.
And it's other things down there as well, garbage cans and all this other
Okay.
stuff. I mean, but
Also
I-
blocking off the river, because
Yeah.
Just
Yep,
run down
yep.
the river.
Yeah.
That was an issue at one of the first events.
Yeah.
It became a splash pad.
And I think parking is always going to be an issue, if you're using it for these events, and it's, we're getting more popular with those, and we're going to try and incorporate more of those next year,
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah,
parking
I definitely don't want to lose all of our green,
No,
permeable surface to surge parking or whatever. But whatever we can do to plan for that, I think would be.
and that's going to be on the side of the bridge that we just put the trail in. This there's that small parking area there.
Yeah.
We're just going to expand that into a little bit of green area around there.
Sure. I feel like bathroom facilities, in my opinion, should go hand in hand with a premier park.
Yeah.
No water fountains, all that.
Agreed.
Solar power.
Maybe the next,
tables.
so what I'm hearing is the Premier Park over the event center.
Yes.
In priority.
Yeah.
I have I have two follow-up questions. One is, do you think the events, if we do that, and let's say the Premier Park goes in 5 years, the event center will go in like maybe, I'm picking random numbers. They don't mean anything. I'm just using it as an example. 10 years or 15 years out, right, for this event center. Do you think that the event center is needed or warranted? And if so, what do you see it being used for? Are you thinking more like community center? Or are you thinking more like weddings? Or are you thinking more like
Your HOA?
yeah, HOA? Or are you thinking more like we went to a Shrek play down in, I think it was Bloomington or someplace there. They have a place where it's like an actual, more like a theater in there.
Yeah.
And then the city puts
I think I
on
know
like
what
an
you're talking
actual, like they have paid actors and they charge tickets. Like it's like a legit theater thing that they do as like a community thing. So I'm just throwing these out as ideas, but I think it's okay to say, you know what, maybe we don't ever put the building there. We don't see that in the next, let's just say 15 years, we don't see that being there. Or maybe you're like, well, it would be nice to have something, but this is what we think it should be. Because I think, when I think of events center, I think of a place to host weddings, more like that's kind of the big thing. And I think we have a large number of those in the city.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep.
My concern with an event center, I mean, I like the bar idea, I like the outlook, I like all that stuff put together, but my concern with all this is adding staffing to the city. Right there, it just starts taking away the, if you're in the red, you're going to only go further. And it would be
And
rather
that's where
pricey.
I would suggest doing like what Coon Rapids and other cities do and just lease it out.
Hmm.
So for example, like when you play at Bunker Hills, all of the food, drink, anywhere on the property, none of it goes through the golf course or the city. So the city owns the golf course and they make a lot of money off the golf course and the range. And then they get a percentage of every single item that comes through and they accept nothing. So they don't have to have the liquor license, they don't have to have the
nice.
bev cart, they do nothing. So whoever it is, it changes every few years over there, whichever group comes in and wins the
Contract the
bid.
vendor.
But whatever vendor, they take on all of that. It's all people that already play in that food and bev space, right? They've got other restaurants, locations, etc. But it's something to think about because then we could get a steady, whether it's $20,000 a month, $30,000 a month, whatever it is from them. That's what they're paying to lease the space, and then they can run their business. And they take on all the risks, their insurance cover, all of it's them. But the city's getting rent money for the space, so it's kind of a nice way to help. Then you're not just spending. Now you're like, well, geez, we built this great park, but we're actually getting money back. Because if it's $20,000 or $30,000 a month,
Sure.
a couple $100,000, $300,000-400,000 a year,
Adds up. Yep.
and then all of a sudden now we have more money to do more things with.
Splash pad, here we come with a zip line.
So it's just some of the things and that's where that city went. Other people look at it and they say, okay, but Bunker Hills has $6 beers and they're not making any of that money. Like, why are they just throwing the money away? Because City of Coon Rapids looked at it and said, we just want the steady. We don't want to deal with the liquor license, any of the stuff that comes with all that, which I wouldn't be surprised if the City of Dayton felt a similar way, because it's just a lot of headaches. It's really great. Like, having these weddings are really awesome, but it's also a major, like when we have the weddings at the venue right now, what happens with food and bev? Is it all catered or is it all through a separate, or how do
At
we
the
handle?
Activity center?
Yeah.
They do that themselves, so they can bring in their own food, or they can have a caterer, a licensed caterer.
Okay.
So it's kind of.
They just lease the space. All we do is
Yeah.
space them and they're responsible for everything inside.
Right.
Yeah, to license it for us, to have a serving catering kitchen is, we'd have to upgrade that and put all the appliances to a certain code, and it's just crazy.
Yeah.
That'd be too much.
So that's why I said I love the idea of leasing the space. So some of these ideas, like again, we could bring in a ton of different restaurants that are, hey, we want to expand, we want to add another location, or we want this. Like, I mean, I never thought Collins would do what they're doing, but look what they're doing at Champlin. They just have that little window there in Mississippi Crossings, and I think they're doing, at least they do very well on Thursday nights when people are lined up through the splash pad.
I do
Makes
like
sense.
the idea of leasing versus, yeah,
I mean, it's
staffing and everything.
guaranteed income and no headaches.
Yeah.
And then
Well,
gives
just
an
knowing
option-
restaurants
and then-
fail so frequently too.
Yeah, well,
that
and then it also gives a local restaurant or someone an opportunity that
Yeah, a
hopefully you
chance.
can help them. Maybe they make it, and you can give them that opportunity, which is a
Mm-hmm.
cool way to support our community members.
Yeah.
So I think one of the key things, just thinking about this, is if we are going to keep the event centre or some kind of structure in there, that's kind of central to how this plan is laid out currently. If that's going away, if we don't have any interest in there, that's going to change the master plan considerably.
You do the next slide where it's a little more zoomed in.
What do you want to see?
We're looking at this that one all along.
Right?
There we go. The legend.
This might be too, like, positive thinking with everything, but if we're making a premier playground, a premier space where we're drawing lots and lots of people too, I would think that, then people would see that there is an event space there too, and that would help get more business for that space as well. So I definitely don't think that we should rule out a future event space. But I don't think that it needs to be the priority either.
Agreed.
So when it comes to the
Premier
Premier
Park.
Park, what to you screams Premier Park?
Zip line.
Well, we have a few of those in the city, so we have a lot of Premier Parks.
One for sure, right.
I mean, I'll say splash pad for sure is something that I think draws a lot of people to a nice park.
What about a water feature?
Or water, yeah.
I'm thinking of, I think it's called Castle Park in Columbia Heights. It's just a park that was so big you could get lost in it. I mean, it was made out of wood, which we wouldn't do anymore, but it was so cool. It was huge. It was the biggest park in like the Tri-City area. That's when I think of Premier Park, that or is it Medicine Lake Park or whatever in Plymouth with the big rope thing. That's kind of what I think of as Premier Park. I wasn't even thinking of something more active like a splash pad, but that'd be awesome too.
I know we had talked about water features constantly, and I've seen the fishing pier on here. What do you think about like some form of a fishing pond or something like that? So for those people that weren't wanting to be on the whatever it is, if we dug something that was some form of a fishing pond for, I mean, it doesn't need to be anything crazy or extravagant, but we could stock it and
Yeah, we could.
stock.
I think the mortality of stock rate though is pretty high.
Yeah.
So you'd have to go pretty deep if it's.
Yeah, I mean,
Would
you
it
have to
could
get your
freeze
oxygen
out.
levels right?
Are you thinking
Yeah, there's
in
a
this
lot of-
park?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Something
in this
like
park
that.
where you're right along the river, I would, if we're trying to draw people to the river,
Yeah.
it's just something to think about.
But you can't really fish the river. I'm talking like.
Well, they fish down the.
People fish there all the
You
time.
can, yeah. I'm talking more like kids though. Like kids and currents don't really
There's
work
a
great.
trail that goes down the riverbank there that people are down there fishing all the time.
Okay, fair.
We could use a fishing pier there if we wanted to make it more accessible to others, but that's gonna be tough just because,
Yeah.
Ice.
The fluctuation.
yeah, you
there.
basically have a floating dock more than
Yeah.
anything else there.
Well, that's what's number 6 on the legend.
It
Seasonal
seems like
docks and
that
fishing
little
pier.
spot there in Champlin seems to get a lot of action. 169 and like by Chili Lime there. Was it
Oh,
the Hayden
yeah.
Lake? That area seems to get a lot. They have the little fishing pier that goes down to the lake, and again, just to me, or that pond, or whatever you want to call it, just from a standpoint of not being a current, not fishing into a current, it seems a little bit, safer. But I guess plenty of people are fine fishing into a current.
Well, so I don't think it's a bad idea to have a space that you can fish that's not in the current. What I would maybe think about is, we've got Diamond Lake.
Yeah, Diamond Lake.
Yeah.
And French Lake. I don't know if there's any fish in French Lake. It's more of a
Probably
swamp
not.
than anything else. I know the ducks are there all the time.
Yeah.
The bird watchers.
And the
are there, but you-
teenagers
You've got
nowadays.
Diamond Lake, right? So maybe if that's the goal, maybe that's the place for it then, to get you the same kind of thing without it being.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of activities that,
Yeah.
you know, we're not already hitting on the head.
I'm just thinking about digging a giant hole next to the river. The DNR may have a problem with.
Sure.
That's valid.
Well, and that's money
Yeah.
that.
It'd probably be in the floodplain anyway as well.
Yeah.
You'd have to
Did
put
we
a
get an
rubber
update on the
membrane
Diamond
around
Lake
it.
$1 million home thing there? Did we have an update?
The Bluestone.
Oh, yeah. I don't think anything's going to happen there.
But I mean, the view of the weeds is.
I've been hearing about it for a year, so yeah, no, I don't
Yeah.
think it's going to happen there.
Okay.
I've heard about how great of a gift that is to the city for a year, so I don't think it's going to happen.
How about the one to the north? That
On
the-
Laura Lake?
Yeah, the Thicket
Yeah.
Lane extension. Or
Yeah,
whatever it was.
that one I think we're still trying to figure out. I think there's an appetite to have a different acreage grouping
Yeah.
in the city, and so
Okay,
we're working
I
with
think
the
I
Met
did
Council
watch-
to understand
yeah,
that,
that's
and
right.
it does fit the Thicket Hills lane that's already there anyways.
Yeah,
and
it
that
makes
kind of, so
sense.
it's not like we're like plopping it somewhere where it's just out of the blue. It kind of
Yeah.
extends that over. So I think my last thing I heard is we're working with.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a yes, it's not a no. It really
Sure.
depends on what we can get done with the Met Council.
Yep. Cool. All right.
So
Back to
Marty,
Stevens.
we've shot around a lot of ideas. Are you looking for a motion on this list? And
I think I
extra
just want
things?
discussion at this time for what I need some direction to go to get it to the next stage. So we'll take all your thoughts, put them down,
So
and
the-
then
your
talk with the
bike,
council, and then I'll start pulling the RFP together and what that's going to look like, include all those ideas in it, and then put that out on the street after the council approve it and see what we get back. I've already approached a few companies about working on this with me, and they all seem pretty agreeable to and excited about doing it. So they'll bring all kinds of different ideas back to us, is my expectation.
Great.
Your-
Okay.
your bike rack repair station, I'm reluctant on that one because of the trailhead with the other, further down the river.
Yeah, a good in.
Yeah.
I mean,
The piece of that maybe to consider is that with the water trail, a lot of it is kayak down, bike up. So you drop your bike
Yeah.
off, you grab your truck up to a vehicle to a river, put your kayak in, kayak down the river, get your bike and bike back to your truck, and then come back up and kayak.
That's interesting.
That's like a big thing when they were in talking about the water trail and they had like the open forum. What's the name of the company that did that for us?
MSA.
Yeah, when MSA was doing that, they were talking a lot about like that's a big thing, I guess nowadays is pedal and paddle or
Yeah,
paddle
Does
and
the,
pedal. Or,
yeah.
does the bike go with
Pedal.
the watercraft, or is it shuttled by a
Yeah.
third party?
No, so like my understanding, and Marty correct me if I'm wrong, is if I was going to do this, I would stop at Elsie Stevens, jump off my bike, and lock it up.
Gotcha,
I go
okay.
back up to the landing and then leave my
That makes
truck
sense.
there, put my kayak in, and kayak down to Elsie Stevens. Then get on my bike and bike all the way back up the landing to get my truck, and then come back and get my
Okay.
my kayak.
I know others, that.
Not me, because I wouldn't do any of that.
Are you
but-
gonna lock your kayak up down there? We're gonna
I-
have
it
Seems
kayak
like a lot of
lock
work,
rack?
right?
Well, we've talked about having those like the self-service rentals. That was
Yeah.
something that came across early in the water trail
Yeah.
conversation.
So that was one of the
that might
ideas.
not be crazy
It'd be
to
a
have locker for
self-service
a
thing
kayak.
where you could
No,
unlock a
right.
bike, put something on your phone at one end, and then take that down, put it back, and lock it up, and then get a canoe, and then go back the other way and lock the canoe up at the other end.
You might get people that are really advantageous want to paddle upriver, so that hopefully it'll a little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done on that, but that is one of the ideas for this. And I think that once that West Mississippi Trail comes through that way, there's going to be a lot of bike traffic coming down there. So I don't think it would be a bad thing to have a bike station here. But yeah,
Was there any movement on the actual structures that are there, reusing those? Is there,
not any movement just yet. I'd like to incorporate that into this next phase of the thing. I mean, I'm in love with that barn.
When's that house going away? That's my question.
The house
boathouse.
would probably take that down next winter.
Right.
And that one,
Fire department?
The fire department, we can't have it, I don't think, can we? Because it's too
Well,
close
you
to the
might be
river.
able to. Ask Gary. I don't know what the permits are for that.
Gary was gonna check. Last I heard, it was really close
Yeah.
to the river, and he's worried about what the DNR might say.
Yeah,
pull it back
I
a
know
little
that
bit.
we had problems with DNR.
It's going down anyway.
It's fine.
Well, I
Underwater
think his
seal,
counter
it's-
argument is that we have houses on the river, so knowing how to put a house out on the river without affecting the river is
Yeah.
probably
We had
advantageous
a
for us.
house fire on the river that was hard to access earlier this year.
This past
Oh,
summer.
Shed
that's right.
fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm open to that idea, and we'll do the cleanup behind there. So I mean, that's fine. However that goes.
I thought I'd heard something that made that a hard no, but awesome that it's not necessarily a hard no.
No, I think that things may be changing a little bit on those things. I think that we got a hard no before, just because of the type of structure it was. And so. All right, are we moving on to the next thing, Mr. Chairman?
So,
Was there anything else you wanted to add about the Premier Park before we move on?
If you want to talk about Premier Park or whatever you want in there, or if you have examples of parks that we should
well,
be
you're
looking at.
you're looking for a budget number, right? And there was a
Eventually,
random
yeah.
5 million number picked.
I
And now
don't
we're
think-
talking
That'd
about
be
a
a nice
premier
park.
park.
I wouldn't get hung up on the $5 million
Okay.
thing. Let's look at what we get back as costs, and then we can adjust
Okay,
the
so
budget that
you
way.
need more ideas than what
I
we
want
think the number
ideas
is.
at this time.
Okay, cool. In that case, I think we're probably good, unless anyone else has.
He wants you to dream so that when the budget numbers come in, you squash them.
That's exactly how it goes.
I know that feeling.
That's why he wants to know the budget, so we can know how big our dream can be.
There's no confirmed budget on it, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, item D, water trails design and costs update.
Okay, so it's been a while since we talked about this. MSA have been working on it throughout the pause. At the moment, we are working to get the federal funding in place so we can actually start using that. That requires environmental study of the area. We're working with HUD to get that confirmed, what needs to be done there. We've approved Stantec to do the environmental study. I think that we're going to be expanding the area that's going to take, just to kill two birds with one stone. But I think it's going to be a 6-month process to get the environmental study done, and then we can actually start doing it. Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully
Fingers
it's only
crossed.
6 months.
Everything goes according to plan. But MSA have refined the design and refined the costs on this thing. I have David Patton here from MSA to do a presentation and talk you through where we're at with the design. And then we can discuss what's happening up with DNR and the landing in the old village. And there's some updates on that. So we're working with that. But David, if you want to...
So Elsie Stevens,
Yeah.
hi, I'm David Patton, MSA. I've been a landscape architect for a long time, 30-some years, and worked with MSA now just under a year. So Elsie Stevens, originally this canoe kayak launch had been kind of conceptually designed with the water trail, and from that we refined it through getting more detail on the site survey, and through that refinement we were able to actually compress the whole design. And as you know, working with the river, any compression in the design should make it easier to get approval. And the biggest benefit of that is we get to lower the budget. So,
Just a down arrow.
so the plan, I guess we could go through that just a little bit. Is there an arrow? Okay. We can use the existing parking area here. All we need to do is stripe it and sign it. And so that meets ADA requirements for slope. And then as we go across the existing pavement here, also meets required slopes. We'll add a spot of pavement here, and then this trail actually also meets ADA requirements, so we don't have to mess with anything there. From there, we have a small overlook area and kind of a seating area that people that are using the trail can use, or you can overlook onto the river. And this ramp, it's actually a sloped sidewalk, not a ramp, because it's 4.8%. So that's under ramp standards for ADA requirements. So it just really cuts down on all of the required expense, and we don't need to put railings up because it's not a ramp.
Just like to say, one of the things for the new people on the council, on the commission, ADA compliance is a big selling point on this. Is trying to get everybody accessibility to the river. So that's been a big part of what we're looking at here.
And then through the survey, we found a spot. There's a small knoll out in the river here that actually worked perfect to set that ramp on. And this is an 8-inch step, and the pads go down into the river, so we can use the ramp or the launch during different times of the year for flooding, and etc. Of course, the center of the ramp or the stepped area is where the average elevation of the river is, and of course, if it gets too low, like early in the spring. This spring anyway, or if it gets too high, of course you can't use it. But the views of that are here. This is the upper area, kind of seating area. One thing that design efficiency, making it smaller, also did is we can look at saving more of these trees that are along the river, and so we won't disturb that riverbank as much. We don't have to replace too many things. And then this is a view going down the ramp, and then of course the stepped ramp down here. The lower left-hand corner is a stepped ramp at average, ordinary high water level, and then the one on the right is at high water level. Of course, it can go higher than that because the drive and parking area is actually within the floodplain also. So, and the budget. Does anybody have any questions so far? The budget for that, originally we were in the 720s,
Yes.
somewhere up there.
720.
And with all of the, efficiencies, we were able to get this down to 536 and a half. So.
And I think that we did try and add some additional stuff in there, like the overlook area and the seating.
Yeah.
We added it in there, just because we want to try and use as much of the government funding on this particular ramp as we possibly can.
Because
So I
Marty,
mean-
you've got funding for like 800,000, right? Last time I think we talked.
Yeah, it'd be 800,000 after the environmental study's done.
Yeah, so we've got more than enough to fund this,
And then,
this
but
one project.
we need to use part of the funds on the Gooding project as well, because when we applied for 2 areas, and so we're going to use some of this money for design work on the other area, but it doesn't have to be a huge amount. I'm not sure. We haven't really tied that down, so we do have some additional funding for this area.
And I mean, there's options too, with this area, if you wanted to take a look at expanding the overlook area or any other features you wanted to add to this. I typically practice simpler is better.
Can we use that extra money for setting up like kayak or bike rental stations there, or is that not? Can we not
I think
use
it's
money
more for
that?
construction.
Okay.
It's fixed, built-in
Okay.
facilities.
Anchors
So, I
for
mean-
people to lock their kayaks up at.
So I mean, there is ways we can construct that too. It's not
Mhm.
just a move-in, sit-down thing.
Yeah.
We could explore that.
So again, we're kind of open to some suggestions from you guys as to what else you would like to see in there. I think that there will be people bringing their own kayaks, but we would also certainly want to have this rental opportunity where people can just book the kayak for an hour or whatever, pay for it on their credit card. They come and just show their phone receipt, and it unlocks the kayak, and then you take it down, and then at the other end you just take it out of the water and push it back into a container there, and that's it. So I think that that's going to be one of the bigger parts for people who have got young kids or whatever, that are just getting started with this, I think that's going to be a big selling part, but I'm sure there's going to be people who bring their own kayaks and canoes for this. And as it expands out down the full 72 miles of this, national park water trail, there's going to be all kinds of people coming down here. So,
How wide is that path down?
The path down is
Yeah.
8.
John, do you know how wide the rescue boat is?
I was thinking about that too. I think it's going to be wider.
I'll say, because if
We wouldn't want to take it down the steps
fair,
to launch. I was thinking about that.
because to go all the way up to the intersection to get it out. Yeah.
If we can get it in there,
Yeah.
otherwise Champlin.
Yeah, but this is like right smack dab in the middle of it too.
Yeah.
So it's kind of nice to have that as an emergency if you need
Well,
to go down
and
there.
my other thought is, I'm sure we can if we control it, but we can probably lock up those lockers or shut them off when the water is like it is. I mean, we had a guy sent his teenagers out, and it was way too much for them to handle earlier this year. So I'm worried about someone. Oh, that looks fun, and they throw a credit card in. But I imagine we'd shut it down in the winter anyway. So.
and for the emergency boat launch, I've talked with Three Rivers Park District, and they're open to considering putting something in at one of their sites that they're buying.
Okay.
Goodin Park would definitely be an opportunity for that. So that, I don't know what your requirements are for that, but we can explore that further with Three Rivers Park District.
Lately, it's been the water needs to be high enough.
Yeah.
But aside from that, yeah, the width and stuff, it would be great because it can be tough to put a boat in, and those are the kind of incidents where it is pretty time sensitive.
Because we don't have the Zodiac anymore, right?
We do. Yep.
Do we?
We still do, and then we have a new jet boat to replace
Yeah.
the one the DNR.
How many people do you guys carry the Zodiac with 4 or 6 people down the ramp? If you
I don't
need to?
think we would even try. It's
Okay.
pretty heavy.
Is
It's a
it-
substantial boat. It's not like
Yeah.
you're backpacking in Zodiac.
Okay.
I think we could access some FEMA grant funding for this as well. So
The only
Oh,
reason
that's
I
a good
ask is
point.
because if you did want to use this for any of that, these bench seats might be in a bad position then to like get something
They're
down. the
bollards
ramp.
basically at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, so that might be something to think about if that's you want to dual purpose that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Although it's a great place for an overlook.
Well, there are a lot more requirements for vehicle access launch too.
Well, I'm just thinking emergency
This is,
services.
I'm on the fire department, so we're just thinking if we get called, like, where can we get a boat in? And I'm guessing there's more leniency in those situations, but at the same time,
I don't think anyone's going to complain if you're just trying to save someone's life. Especially because you have more people getting in and out right here.
Yeah.
You're probably going to get more calls between the launches now than we have in the past. So having access closer than having to go all the way to one end of the city to get the boat in and come all the way back down is where my thoughts at.
Yep.
That'd be a long way to back it down.
we train for this.
You gotta hook it, just walk it.
Just
go
go
side
right
by
down,
side.
Right there.
back straight down there, you're fine.
Well, honestly, yeah, like right there, where the kids walk in.
Right. Anyways,
So, what
I like
other
the
things are we
look of that
thinking about putting in here? Are there any specific requirements that you want other than the boat launch there or whatever? Or, I mean, David, have you got anything to offer for additional amenities that might make sense here?
Well, I think we could explore the fire department launch in this. Go back. I don't think it's out of the question just because of the way that it depends on if you're having do you have it towed behind a pickup?
Currently,
And then you're-
we also have a side-by-side that I could potentially tow it in a pickle.
Okay.
I don't know for sure, and
Because
maybe
I mean,
my
if
chief
that
would not like me saying
if
that.
that can
but-
fit down the path.
I mean, it's a full-size pickup with dualies,
Okay.
so it isn't like an S10 per se, but
Yeah.
get your Jeep up to it.
I would.
That's really
That'd be perfect.
easy to turn.
Well, if it was smaller, like an ATV or something like that.
Yeah, and the boat
Coming
is
down.
an inflatable style, so it's a large boat, but it's not a full-size big hold boat.
Right.
So that being said, though, the river boat is what we would prefer to take on the river, and that is a full-size hard hold jet boat. So
Yeah, not something you'd carry down the ramp.
yeah,
So we could expand the ramp, widen it, and it just makes it more convenient for people coming up and down it. And if you have a kayak or a canoe, your canoe is going to be 3 feet wide, 2 feet for a person if you're carrying that. It could be a little bit wider. This year, we made the minimum width, and just to make it more efficient. So, and also the overlook area, if you were planning on having canoe and kayak rental, this area over here is where you could put that. So expanding that out a little bit more too would be more convenient for the city.
You may have said this, but what's the rise and the run on those steps?
It's 8-inch steps.
8-inch length?
Riser.
Rise, okay.
And then it's 8 feet by 16 feet. So the idea there is it's 16 feet wide on a canoe. Person gets in between the 13 feet. So if you set your canoe there, a person can get in the seat here and a person can get in the seat here. Hopefully you don't dump it.
Do we have picnic tables or anything in this area, Marty?
Yes, there's some further down along the trail there. There's another overlook down just further to the east down there, and there's an overlook there with tables and stuff there. But it's not a huge amount of tables and stuff. I mean, that's something that we could incorporate into here.
And all of these elements I'll just kind of draw a line on here, within this area, right through here, is within the floodway. So anything that's built within there just adds to the
Might take a swim.
drama of the approval.
Yeah.
So-
You're there to get wet anyways.
And that was one of the biggest reasons we made the design
Yeah.
compact.
Kayak
Yeah.
parking.
I've actually not had too many requests to spend more money, so.
I know.
This is odd, actually.
I like simple.
This is a weird question, I don't know, but the boat that you're talking about, is it only used on the river? The one that you use for, only used on this river?
Well, there's the Crow River as well,
Oh, okay.
which we responded to.
I was wondering about if it was possible that you could store it in this space somehow, if you built storage for it.
Sure.
but-
Yeah, I don't think, I know Minneapolis does that, they have boats that sit on the river, but I don't think that would work here.
Okay.
You also have the 2 lakes you can use the boat too.
Yeah, the lakes are more likely the Zodiac, but at the same time, we'd like to have the redundancy.
Having access to it, yeah.
to both of them.
That's what I
One's out
wondered.
of service, they can serve as a backup.
Yeah.
Do you guys still store the boat down in Station 1?
Yeah, so the jet boat's at the station next to the activity center.
So it's
and then
right next to the
the Zodiac
AES.
is next to here.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know, I mean, maybe I'll talk with you, David, and see
Yeah.
what the alternates are for this, to add some extra, we've got the funding, so I'd like to use it here as much as we possibly can.
Are we going to need any of that funding for the DNR one?
The DNR, so we still got 100,000 coming from the National Park Service as well.
Okay.
And then there's 570,000,
Or more.
or more, from DNR to redevelop that area down there. So that's going to be, we're going to do the design and all that stuff and build, and they're going to reimburse us for that. So we're having a meeting with them, is that this week?
Yes, this week.
This week to figure out what they're looking for to do down there, and then these guys are going to pull some plans together for that. I'm really excited about it because it gives us a put-in point at DNR and a take-out point at Elsie Stevens. So I want to try and make sure that this has all the amenities. I mean, the DNR thing is going to pretty much fund itself because they like to fund their own projects. So we can use some of the National Park Service funding in there if we need to, or in here, or even on the design for a good inn or whatever. So in this instance, we got more money than we know what to do with.
It sounded like there was some restriction as to how we could spend it, is that correct? Like it's construction or?
Yeah, design and construction.
Would something like I don't know if this is even the right term, but like a a gazebo type structure like you see at a lot of parks. It's just on posts, a roof, cement underneath it with picnic tables or something like that. Would that be appropriate?
Couldn't build that in the floodplain.
Oh,
So
sure.
Yeah,
we'd
Okay.
have to be
floodplain.
outside
Okay.
that.
I'm just thinking the Queen Rapids Dam Park, they have those everywhere and they're always booked, and that felt like maybe a lower cost than a big structure, but
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we
the
got that
floodplain is-
pergola over there. I don't even.
I mean, something
wanna
like
go there again.
if say it starts raining when you're kayaking and you can get out of the rain for a minute once you land, kind
Yeah.
of thing. I mean, maybe you go there for a picnic, maybe not. I don't know, but that
But
was
it-
kind of what I was thinking with it.
But there will be a picnic shelter just down from this area as well. That's
Okay.
what we're planning as
Okay.
well. So, I mean,
The DNR in Old Downtown Dayton would be, that launch would be fantastic for the pedal piece because it's almost just the perfect
Yeah.
distance for a
Perfect
loop.
loop.
You're all within Dayton.
it'd be even better once West Mississippi Trails in all the way down there. That would be a little bit safer.
Give them a year, they'll have all the property, they're getting closer every day.
I know. I know it.
I guess I do have one last question. What is this little gray bit here across the asphalt from? Looks like maybe some
That's
like a
a-
short path.
That's a rock, like a riprap outlet.
Oh, okay.
From
Yeah.
Got
it's
it.
an infiltration pond
Yeah,
that was
Like drainage.
designed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it. The,
Thought it was it's like the shortest sidewalk ever, maybe.
Yeah. That's already in there. That's existing.
It's canoe parking.
new
Yeah.
sledding hill.
Cool.
The only ad I would have is trash receptacles. You're on the water all day, fruit snacks, gummy
Yeah.
bears.
Any
aluminums.
encouragement to keep it out of the water would be great.
Yeah. If we really, really just need something that we want to spend the money on too, there's a really beautiful arch in my hometown of Decorah, Iowa, that goes on their bike trail that has like these trout that are made out of metal, and it looks really cool. And I could see something like that for like the entrance to the river being beautiful and kind of helping market too, because that's another thing I wonder is like how many people will know that this is
Sure.
here. But
So one additional thing that comes to mind is, I know that the amphitheater overlook piece that's just down from here is utilizes limestone blocks, and this was priced with Mega Block. So if we use natural stone, there would be a price increase.
What's a mega block?
Mega Block is a large concrete block that it looks like stone,
Sure.
but it's a system that's put together.
That limestone's very controversial.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very complicated.
Yeah.
It's an idea. It's very controversial.
I'm just trying to spend more money.
No.
Is Mega Block like in a lot of cities? I'll see like a massive retaining wall on the side of the road that looks kind of blockish. That's probably
Yeah.
Something like that, okay.
This looks a lot better.
Okay.
Than some of the older stuff.
Yeah.
Some of the older stuff looks like stacked Legos. This
Yeah.
actually has molds directly from.
And it
Stone.
looks together in a neat way as well.
Yeah, and they have a ton of molds. There used to be like 4 molds that they used over and over and over. But, you know, the block all look different. So it looks like a dry stacked stone.
What's the price difference between one of these blocks and a limestone block?
I would have to check. Because the limestone block is not an engineered product. So we would also have to proof the engineering on the natural stone. So we're tied together. So,
The ones we have down by the river look like the tops are all cracking off of them too.
yep, natural product. Doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
You're not selling me on the limestone now.
Well, it really
Yeah, we'll
depends
take the
on where you
Legos.
get your limestone to and the density, because limestone has different densities at different
Sure.
areas.
I think
So
it's
you
only
can
a couple of
specify.
quarries that do it in this area.
Yeah, so some of the limestone is almost, it's very hard. It's not like shale. So, but yeah, different densities, you can specify the density in the specs. But larger density, harder to cut, more expensive.
Okay.
Those all add up. I can spend money. Right.
Says
Alright.
the vendor.
That's your
Well,
free
it's the
show
federal
way to spend
government's
money.
money in this case, so
Yeah.
we're a little less worried about it.
Yeah.
Still,
Yes,
we got to answer to them.
Okay, I think we got what we need from this, David. We'll
Yeah.
touch base and then we'll refine the design a little bit more and then bring that back.
Yep.
we got some time here to play around with working with the DNR and with the HUD environmental studies. They take a while, so I'd like to put some time into just refining this as well.
Sure. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Nice to
Thank
meet you
you.
guys.
Thanks, David.
Were there also any updates on the Crow River launch? I thought there was something mentioned, like,
I was going to talk about the DNR launch. That's what I was going to talk about,
Okay.
and I just gave that update pretty much.
Okay.
cool.
But once we get the design, what they want for a design, then David and MSA will start pulling that together. But we won't find out exactly what their requirement is until this Thursday. I think it is. We're meeting with them. So
Wednesday at 1 o'clock.
okay, I'm close then.
Sure. My only very preliminary thought on that is if we're launching on the existing launch like a kayak, we've had difficulty getting our powered boat back on with the current. So is there something maybe they can do to help with
Going
that?
on the
They're
north
looking
side.
at redoing that whole launch, I think,
Yeah.
aren't they, Marty?
Well,
To
yeah,
move
the
actually
whole
where the
thing.
launch
Right,
is.
for the powered boats, but then I thought that
And,
potentially the existing launch would become like for a kayak,
Well, that's what it will be. But there'll be
some kind
design.
of like
yeah.
blocking or, okay.
Yeah.
That was my thought.
That's going to be the biggest part of the design for there.
Yeah.
Basically, we're designing a big parking lot with two river accesses on. Yeah.
So if the river's coming together, it can be tricky to maneuver,
Yeah.
again, even a powered boat.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. We'll get back to you. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. Item E, National Fitness Campaign Discussion.
Yes, so we were presented with a kind of unique opportunity to see if this is something that would fit in Dayton or if we want to explore looking into it further. I've had a few phone calls with the Minnesota rep, and it's kind of a cool thing that could potentially work here in Dayton. So I don't know if you had a chance to watch the 3-minute
I did.
video that was in the packet. Kind of gives a good overview of the campaign. So right here you see it's what the original plans are for the campaign. It's basically a free app. Anyone can come and go as they want. It's a outdoor fitness court essentially, with built-in little things that you can go to each station and do whatever you want basically. It's a 7-minute full body workout if you wanted to use the app that's here. You just download it on your phone. It's free. Kind of a cool thing. That was that last page was the original plan, and then this next one here you see is their studio version. So on that back side is what we just saw, and then this other side here would be what you would do obviously for Zumba or yoga, any kind of outdoor classes, or if someone wanted to just do a whole workout on their own. It's kind of a cool thing. They're out in nature, and then this area here, they incorporate local artwork. Either you can choose between someone in Dayton or someone in like Hennepin County, or you could choose between, there's like a Minnesota certain ones that are already set, so you could choose between that. And this is partnered with Blue Cross Blue Shield, so there are grants available for funding. When I talked to Gloria is her name, she's the Minnesota rep, she put together 2 site scores. They basically have a whole team doing this national fitness campaign, where they handle all of the back of the house stuff basically, and so they thought Cloquet Overlook Park and Brianna Scurry at Central Park would be the best places for this to potentially be. It's all based on activity. Are there trails? Is it visible from roads? Are there neighborhoods around? And what other amenities are on site? Baseball fields, soccer fields, places that are highly trafficked essentially. Here's an overlook of the funding. So this side on the left is the original pricing, and then that studio version with the extra open space would be on the right side here. she said that a lot of these fitness courts that they've put in have been actually fully funded from sponsors, and so there's ways to definitely cut down on the costs here. Dayton qualifies for the $50,000 grant, so that would be taken off the top. And then she said she's seen concrete businesses donate to the concrete, and then they just have their logo on the artwork wall.
And with Semstone being in town, that might be a good one to tap.
Could be.
And that'd be less of a cost for them probably too versus giving the actual money. And then there's also options to have their team come in, install the equipment, or have someone hire, like you could outsource the installation as well. So it's kind of a estimate overall for the cost, but it's kind of a unique thing and a definite opportunity. So I actually, Shakopee just included one in their park. It's a kind of a newer park they're trying to ramp up. They just put a new playground in there. They have an edible walkway actually right down the way. So there's different plants and trees where people can just kind of take what they want as they go. So here's the guy who did the artwork for Shakopee's. He was a local guy. They had their ribbon cutting over here. They did the police department versus the fire department, doing a whole like relay race. It was pretty funny. They had Sparky there, and just their like launch party was pretty cool. So it's really kind of a low maintenance thing. You just check the nuts and bolts twice a year and just make sure there's no debris on the court every so often. So just something that we were presented with and thought it was kind of unique and different. Their plan is to have one of these within 10 minutes of every pedestrian in the nation, which is ambitious, but you know,
So I guess
it's been around for 40 years.
So what we're looking for from you guys is this something that you think would be good for Dayton, and then we can explore it a little bit more and refine it down to what the cost is going to be and what we want to do with this. But it's like Danielle's saying, it's something new that was presented to us. I think we've had discussions about having different kinds of stuff on trails and stuff. This might be a good way of linking a trail to an exercise area where you can stop off while you're walking and have a 7-minute workout or whatever.
I think it's great. This almost screams Elsie Stevens. If you want to make it a premier park. I mean, I understand it's not getting as much traffic right now as the other one, so I get why that wouldn't be the place, but maybe if we add a edible walkway or an edible, what was it, edible walkway?
Yeah, is what they called it.
Add an edible walkway and a workout center, maybe now it's the premier park. I mean, just trying to think of what's different that, is going to make people want to go there.
Well, and looking forward to like that studio version, you could have rec classes do their fitness outside versus inside of a community center or whatever it would be.
To me, it seems almost like the perfect 1-2 punch with a new playground for kids. Where it's like, hey, you guys go do your thing over on the
I
monkey
usually
bars.
see them with playgrounds, so that makes sense.
Mom
to
and dad
me.
are going to do their 7-minute workout because that's what we've got, and you guys don't kill each other.
Any way I can work out and still keep an eye on my kids, for sure.
I think it's good. And then an edible walkway afterwards. Everybody eats a couple cherry tomatoes. I mean, it seems like we're doing some good things in community here. Right?
For 6 months out of the year.
Well,
But if we can get sponsorships, and you said basically make it free. I mean, I don't know. We don't have a ton of local businesses just yet, but they also probably haven't been.
I think there's some
We have
bigger
some big ones,
businesses
though,
here
too.
that we can tap.
And they haven't been exhaustively hit up by
not at all.
sponsorships yet.
And we've done them a lot of favors.
And
So-
I'm thinking of even at the edible walkway, you've got a lot of farmers in town that could
Oh,
help
yeah.
put like apple trees up or
Absolutely.
berry bushes in or
Sweet corn.
yeah, those kind of things. So I think
I mean, what if we got the Dayton Bar and Grill to do some form of refreshments afterwards? Even if it's like a Gatorade or like some sort of a water cooler or something like that. Like,
Or burgers on the
burger and
edible walkways.
fries.
Well, the Lions are always available to
It's
sell
morning
beer
breakfast
or,
sandwich.
I mean,
or
I'm just
beverages,
thinking
too.
of how we get what we have for businesses here. Because
this
if we
could be
say
a-
the,
Go ahead, sorry.
if we say the final cost is, let's call it 180, and that's or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we only want to finance 100 of it, how do we get
Well, that's
20
ki-
businesses to give $3 or $4 grand each or something like that?
Well,
You know,
that's
I think we
kind
can
of-
do it.
That's kind of where we want to get to from here. If there's an interest in it, we would certainly start looking for grant funding or whatever else we can find for this.
Yeah.
This is something too, like a lot of cities have a Lions Park. I know we don't have one, but this may be like a Lions exercise park. So it's maybe not having to sponsor an entire park, but just a small section of it. Maybe the Lions would be interested. I have no clue. You would know more than I would, but
Do the Lions have pull tabs in town?
Not at the moment. And if we don't get a site figured out shortly, then we will be technically shutting down our gambling operation, which would potentially mean dispersing
That's
some
not good.
funds.
Yeah.
Until we start up again. So
Are you on
Then-
the Lions?
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the secretary.
Because so in Ramsey, the Lions does the pull tabs at River Hills Golf Course, and the Lions Club does very well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You're printing money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of backstory behind that. But
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know the Lions would like to do that in town.
Yeah, that's definitely a goal. Yeah.
Okay.
There's just like you said, there's only so many spots in town, and a couple of them aren't really pull tab type venues. Like
Who does Dayton Bar do theirs with?
it's the Blaine Festival, I believe it's called. It's an organization out of Blaine. The bar owner wanted to go with them.
Interesting.
So they're doing that currently. We're
What
looking
about-
for
what
other
about
They
opportunities.
got hometown favorites?
Sundance, again, backstory there. So Maple Grove Lions are selling pull tabs because when we were approached, there wasn't staffing ability. So we didn't have a gambling. This is before my time, but I've heard. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
What about the gas station?
I've
Not
been-
Quick Trip, the one over here.
Braintree Plaza.
we don't want to sell bootleg pull tabs. But no, you're absolutely correct. There may be interest in the Lions, sponsoring this, something to this effect. I think I'm personally interested in it. Thinking about how we're going to pay for it and sponsoring sounds like great ideas.
I think you got Semstone. I think Quick Trip might get involved in something like
Graco.
that.
But
Graco.
But we're already
Yep.
thinking
And
about
Vents might get
spending.
interested in something like that too.
To me, if you tie it into LC Stevens and you're already planning on spending X amount of dollars in LC Stevens, if we're all of a sudden now doing things in LC Stevens that other people are help funding, that makes our dollars go even further in LC Stevens.
Right.
And it's bringing more people in for different things, not just for a park. I think it's a win-win-win. And I think the price is very reasonable when you're considering what you're getting and just overall community health. Maybe we get like a local insurance agency or something that would want to sponsor it because they're excited. They want people to live longer, right? And have no, seriously, this is something that insurance
Well, that's
agencies
why it's
no,
Well, it
they,
is,
they
yeah.
give you discounts. Yeah, they give you discounts
Yeah, they-
for having good health because
Yeah.
they don't want you going to the hospital or
That's
dying
probably
because they need you to pay for a lot of years.
The piece I'll point out too, Brett, is Cloak Overlook Park is, I would say, almost an extension of LC Stevens.
Yeah.
So always keep that in mind, like it's right
Absolutely.
up
I
the
would
hill.
agree.
So maybe that hill could be the
Yeah.
edible trail.
Sweat
I don't
hill.
know.
Yeah.
If you were
I mean,
in-
there's a trail all the way around there as well.
Yeah.
Around there.
Yeah,
A
go
nice
for a
circuit.
jog.
I mean, how cool would that be if you just got done doing your workout ever, just walk down the hill and snag an apple or a tomato
Or zip line.
Or yeah, we'll just put a zip line down the hill.
or just
That'd be fun. Does what's the park that has the is it Three Rivers Park? Used to have the zip lines over by where they've got the skiing.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, we used to bike up there, and they had like those were the only park that had zip lines back in the day. That was fun. They were longer though.
So, okay, I'm hearing we should investigate this a little bit more. and
Yes, please.
start
This is
thinking-
awesome. Thanks, Danielle.
It's good find.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Venice Beach in California.
The little
Start
workout on the
tweeting
beach.
Beach in Minnesota.
Start
Yeah,
tweeting Schwarzenegger
Dayton
now.
Beach.
Maybe he'll come out for the grand opening.
It would be on the water potentially even.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every time I've come across one of these, though, I like even if I'm not dressed for a full workout, I feel like I'm always like messing
It's
around
fun
with
to
stuff.
try
I'm
and
just like,
some
what is this?
I can see my kids would be all, even if there wasn't a playground, they'd be like, oh, we can work out with Daddy. Not that I work out or anything,
It's
but
intended
they'll do
for
whatever they're doing.
14 plus.
But
So they'll be at the top line.
That one picture, that some of those kids.
I
are
know
not
that
like
was
14.
that was at the
Grand opening.
little grand
Shock.
opening. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
I like the
some of
idea.
those people don't
Kids
know
will
they're
think
14.
that's funny.
Yeah.
Maybe
I like
not
the
good.
idea though of the other space for doing yoga classes and stuff like that.
And
too.
we did have some, when we were doing Brave Trousers, a gentleman came in and said that they've been doing some outdoor yoga classes over there. And
Yeah,
getting good response and stuff.
one of the members of the Lions Club said during COVID, a former neighbor of his ran like Farrell's in Maple Grove, and they were doing cul-de-sac workouts. And it's like there's an app. People will get outside and work out if there's
It'd be fun if we could rent out that space, so if there was like a local gym that wanted to rent it every Tuesday afternoon, they could then have their
I mean,
yoga class outside, and that could help the city too.
yeah.
If we can get a regular group to come there and get day and active people in there as well. We've tried
done
this
stuff
at the activity centre, and we've only ever had 2 to 5 people turn up there. So if we could do something like this, which is,
Yeah, you're right across from that huge development
yeah,
too.
I think this would be a good
Might have
idea.
better luck on a weekend. Then like, 1 o'clock on a Tuesday. Just saying.
Depends on the demographic.
Yes, that you're targeting, yes, that's right.
Yes.
I can also, for this, so these are the 2 site scores, obviously Cloquet and Brianna Scurry, but if you were interested more in doing it at Elsie Stevens, I could have them do a site score for
I
that
kind of
too.
like Cloquet Overlook. I think it
Yeah,
gives
that
that,
area would
that
be
little
good.
bit of separation.
Yeah.
And there's nothing there currently. There's a playground there for the kids, so that could work out
Makes
as
it
well.
easy, yeah.
And
Is
with
there
it
enough
scoring so
parking
high.
there? If you start getting like pretty good turnouts,
Well, then we would
overflow to Elsie.
You can put some in Elsie, and then if
It's a bit of a hike, but
Just
yeah, you
take a
can do it.
jog, you're
Yeah.
working out anyways.
Park at 7-minute
Park
workout
there.
just with the 12.
It's just the encouragement that people need.
Well, it'll
Yeah.
be connected once Hennepin County does that.
Yeah.
They can park all the way down by the pickle court
Yeah.
park.
Pickleball?
Pickleball, thank you. Pickleball parking and river walk, and then walk all the way from River Walk through River Hills, through
Jog.
Elsie Stevens, up over to Cook over.
There you go.
Do your 7-minute workout and then go back 40 minutes.
pretty much. It'll take you 25 minutes to walk there. And
Cool down. You said
There
it
you
was a
go.
7-minute workout. Why were you gone for 2 hours?
What's the material on the ground? It looked like,
The blue stuff?
yeah, I'm imagining it's like a foam, but
It's like a padded,
Like soft.
I'm not exactly sure the term that
Okay.
it would be, but it's like a little bit squishier.
must be meant to hold up, I guess, if it's meant to be.
It's probably like the rubber stuff that we have
Yeah, like
on
it's a
the
rubbery-
playgrounds there.
Okay. I was just thinking anything artificial eventually will need some kind of maintenance, probably.
I
Maybe. So
want to
then they
say
say
there's
in
a
gen-
10-year warranty.
Oh, okay.
10-year warranty. No general upkeep though, day to day. Nothing for
Day to day, no.
Okay.
I asked that, and she said it's basically check the nuts and bolts twice a
Okay.
season, or twice a year, actually, she said.
Well, it's
And
not
then-
twice a day.
And then
Everybody's
obviously
over here
like
breathing
the debris.
Marty gets his own workout. Perfect. All in favor?
Thank you. Okay.
Very cool.
Well, we'll explore this a little further and
Yeah.
start thinking about some sponsorship ideas and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking for you here, Danny.
Yeah, I have a meeting with her tomorrow, so this is good.
Good.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank
Cool.
you.
I had a couple of little quick updates I'll add. I did dig into the Tree City thing. I filled out a contact form and I haven't heard back, but I did find a lot more information than I had previously found, including like the sample ordinance, and then a more detailed outline of the standards. Just a cursory look, they want a tree board or department, but I think a city department being delegated counts, so we can just, Public Works already maintains them, that would probably be really easy. The ordinance, of course, would have to be written and go in front of council. There's a big process there. I don't know exactly how that would be initiated from our commission. I don't think we're there yet right now, but I would be
Just
curious.
share it with me and then
Sure.
you can figure out where that goes to from here.
City staff would help write it
Yeah.
so that it fits in our format and all
Yeah.
that. Like I said, they give you a Word doc that says insert name here, but we want to adjust things
Probably
properly.
run it through the attorney and all
Yeah.
that good stuff.
And you guys could write the ordinance and then vote to send it to the council for
Sure.
approval, and then it would go to the
Sure.
council to review and
Yeah.
approve.
Yep.
And if it affects EDA or planning, it would go to them too, so they have to
Sure.
get away in.
Yeah, and one thing that, John Seaval had brought up, there may not be appetite in imposing something that says, we will come and cut down your tree and charge you, and I absolutely get that and agree with that. The sample ordinance says the city may deem something a nuisance and deal with it. I don't know if, I didn't look super deep in our current codes, maybe that's something that's already kind of in there, maybe not.
I don't think so. I don't think we got a very exclusive tree ordinance.
It's just for development is all I could find is,
Yeah.
I thought we
and
had
a
something
big,
for disease. I thought I had exactly something for diseased trees, though.
like, there's weed ordinances, it can't
Yeah.
be this tall.
Yeah,
The
but
only thing-
I think if your tree's got oak wilt, I thought that Zach said there were certain requirements around getting that taken out at the right time so it didn't spread. Same with.
Yes. I think that what we wanted to do was try and write an ordinance for the city with the emerald ash borer thing coming
Yeah.
through. And we wanted to add some stuff in there about what the city is prepared to do with inspections and that kind of stuff. Now we have an arborist on staff, which opens up a lot
He
more
passed his
things.
test?
Yeah,
Awesome.
Nice.
by 1 point.
Pass.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
fine.
it is, man.
Passing is
Why are you
fine.
gonna say
A
that?
doctor with a C is still a doctor.
He passed, so that's the main
Awesome.
thing there.
Because those kind of ordinances can be helpful. When I lived in Coon Rapids, my neighbor rented, and he refused to take down his tree that had an oak wilt, and we had
Yeah.
10 oaks in our yard, so we called the city, and they came out and took care of it, which was
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, so to be quite honest, we had a lot of calls about stuff. He had a table at the open house and gave his card out, and he's had a lot of responses from that. We've seen, I've been with him on a few things where you just go around somebody's yard and point out the trees that have got emerald ash borer or the ones that have got oak wilt or whatever, what needs to be trimmed, or trees you can save or trees that you've got to remove at some stage here. So it is good, and I think that we need to beef up our ordinance or have an ordinance that is going to incorporate all that stuff that we're doing now. So
Sure. Cool, and like I said, that was just the sample ordinance had that. I
Yeah.
don't know if they would say, to be a tree city, you must be able to do this.
Yeah.
But
I would like to-
I think there's value in it, but I also understand not wanting government overreaching.
yeah.
The sample ordinance was calling out specifically diseased trees or nuisance, like it's blocking the right of way.
Yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah, and I think that right-of-way stuff, that I think there's some description in there about trees overhanging right away the tree.
Yeah.
The city has the right to
Absolutely.
trim those trees back.
Yep.
But it'd be good to have a look at that ordinance, and then maybe we can blow that out a little bit and incorporate some of the
Yeah.
other things that I was just talking about.
Yep,
But
I'll send
that'd
that
be
to
a
you,
good
and
start
then if you can probably forward that to the commission to see. It's just pretty basic, but might be interesting. And then the last thing, I read it as $2 budget per year, but it was per capita per year, so it'd be twice your population. So what's the current estimate? Is it $9,000?
11,000.
11,000?
Yeah.
We're over 10 now, yeah.
So you'd be looking at a budget of 22,000, and they do provide a sheet of all the things that can be counted as tree related expenses. So not quite as easy as hitting a $2 budget, but
That'll help Marty's bottom line, though, because his team takes care of all that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
22 grand's not gonna do a lot.
grand.
Last year, the budget came down to 20 grand, so 22 grand could do a lot.
Yes, it could.
That's pretty sad.
Well, and a lot of it's potentially stuff we're already spending money on, I'm thinking.
Yeah,
It's
that's my
just
point.
saying-
Yeah, we're just augmenting
Yeah.
current staff activities, so it really is just gonna help add
Yeah, some
Marty's
percentage
bottom
of the
line,
time.
which is a good thing.
Yeah. Then I mentioned at the last meeting, the park over by the apartments, it looks like it's still out of commission. Were you able to, did Sands say anything? What I haven't done and I mean to do is stop by and talk to someone there, and like maybe it's closed down because they don't like it, for all I know. And
I never got a
Okay.
response from them yet. I can follow up.
It's a private park, right?
Yeah, it's a private.
Yeah, it's just for them. It's just been blocked off all summer now. Every time I drive by going to a fire call, there's people out there, but no one's in the park.
Yeah.
So, and then the other question I had is, I thought that the Quick Trip over on 81 was supposed to put in a park for the mobile.
They did.
Oh, they did? Is it in the trailer park then?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
right in the
it's
back
back behind.
corner.
Oh, I've seen that park. I thought that they were going to be putting one in more like along Quick Trip in 81, which wouldn't make as much
No,
sense. Okay.
no, they took that one out when they put the store in. Then
Gotcha.
they put a brand new one back in the park.
Cool. All right, I don't have anything else.
Next meeting, I guess, is the thing.
It looks like it's scheduled for
9/3, Tuesday
September
night,
3rd.
6:30.
It's the day after Labor Day, which is fine, but just so everyone knows.
No, good context.
I've got a couple of things that I would like to add to the agenda for that.
Everyone's good with that, Nate?
Yes.
I think so.
Do you,
Getting the right calendar up here.
I was gonna say, we
Yep.
both have kindergartners starting this fall. So the first week is really weird, how
Okay.
it works. I don't think there's anything in the evening, right? It's just,
I honestly, I'm not even sure yet exactly what days my kid's in school. Well, some of it we don't know anyway, but yeah.
I wanna, yeah, it's confusing. The very first week is very confusing.
But yeah, we'll have it covered.
We'll be-
Grammar
one of
Grant can
us
help out
will
if we
be
need
here.
to. On my half anyway. So yeah, I'm good with the 3rd.
Okay.
Duties?
So I'd like to have a discussion on memorial benches and park furniture and general style of what we want those to look like. I want to try and firm that up a bit so I can have a general style for, I have a couple of styles for
Sure.
memorial benches because different people want different things.
It's kind of like the sign standard where you have a
Yeah.
selection, yeah.
Yeah, so, and then, then we can look at different price ranges for those as well, but I think that we should have a standard for that. And then the other thing is give an update on the PIP 2024 Park Improvements Project, see where we're at with that, with the bridge for sure, and the irrigation project, and hopefully some costs, where we're at with the stuff for the band shell.
Cool.
And if you guys have anything you want to add, let me know.
Did you wanna do duties tonight?
Oh, we already did that.
We did that.
Oh, that was it?
You're the vice
Oh,
chair.
okay.
Yeah,
I
you're
wasn't
the
sure if
vice
there was like
chair
an
now.
actual specific, like,
Yeah.
details.
No, that was it.
No, it's on the job kind of learning.
I think,
Where's my formal training?
No.
I'm kidding. I am kidding. I do.
Just go with it. You'll be fine.
We'll be good.
I won't be
Yeah,
here for
okay.
3rd.
All right.
Okay, got it.
Anything else? All right. Adjourned.
good job.